Okay, thanks for listening to the episode. I am one of your co-hosts, Craig.
I'm Kyle.
And this is Josh.
Okay, well, as we talked about the last time we gathered, we are changing things up, and each episode will be one of the three of us will pick both films that we will be looking at. So this week was my pick, or this episode was my pick, and we are doing an Eric Red double feature of Body Parts and Bad Moon. So we'll get into Body Parts first, since it came out first in 1991. So Body Parts, in the quick synopsis, is about professor and psychologist, a criminal psychologist, who gets into a car accident and his arm needs to be amputated. And his wife is pressured by the doctor to do an experimental procedure that will transplant a new arm onto his body. And once that happens, everything seems to be fine until the arm starts almost acting on its own and causing him to have violent dreams and violent tendencies, until he realizes that the arm was connected to a deceased serial killer who killed 20-some people with a bunch of other charges against him. And so now he's trying to figure out what is truly going wrong. So this is the first time I watched it, but I knew about this for the most part because there's this old Simpsons episode. I think it's a Treehouse of Horrors where they spoof this. So that's what I remember this from for the longest time. I enjoyed it. It is, again, I think it tries to be smarter than it actually is. It's fun, and there's a lot of stuff to it, but I think it's one of those things where they try to explain the science of, the whole question is, where does evil lie? Is it in the soul? Is it in the brain? Or is it in the flesh? And he talks about that constantly, and it doesn't really make sense. You know, there's one person where they have the serial killer's legs, and then Mark, I believe, and the legs then decide to go a little crazy and push on the gas, and he's sent spiraling into the street. And then Brad Dourif has the other arm, and he is painting, and he's painting all of the kills that the serial killer took part in, until we get to the fact that there will be spoilers right now, that the serial killer is even alive, as his head was transplanted onto another body. And that's what happens. But but going back, not even acknowledging all of that, the thing that somehow got me the most is, so in the beginning, our main character, who is, I can't even remember his name off the top of my head.
Jeff Fahey.
There we go. He's done a lot of work now, more recently with the Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez groups, and like Grindhouse and things like that. But he has a long career. For those of you that don't know, he starts off and he's he's like the perfect father. He seems like a great professor, all around nice guy. And yet, he's telling everybody throughout it that he's having these weird dreams, that this arm is going crazy on its own. It cuts him with a razor. It slaps his kid. And then while he's dead asleep, it starts choking his wife. And yet, his wife kicks him out, and everybody treats him like he's just this violent guy, like not even acknowledging the fact that he's already talked about. They don't talk about the fact that maybe it's the arm itself, which was killing me the whole time, because that he's saying, for some reason, this arm is having a mind of its own. Other people are witnessing it, and then he gets kicked out of the house, and he's like this horrible person that, this child abuser and all this stuff that it goes into. And then there's, I don't know, but overall, I think it was a lot of fun. There's a really cool car crash sequence in the beginning where he is not wearing a seatbelt, which you should always wear a seatbelt. And he flies through the window after seeing the car in front of him, the tire about to come off for a long time. And instead of maybe slowing down or speeding ahead of the car, he decides to keep just staring at it and talking into his recorder. And yeah, and then he flies through the windshield. And not only that, then he bounces off of the other car in front of him that has now catapulted into the air. But I will stop talking because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Yeah, I like this movie. This is my second time seeing Body Parts. That car crash is great. I think the timing of it is great too, because you have him, like a lot of the action in the movie is really some of the best parts. But yeah, that car crash, just the timing of him kind of stopping in time for the car in front of him, and then he gets rammed by a semi and flung out of his car. I wasn't bothered by the whole no one believing him about the arm thing. Just because, I mean, this movie is not really played realistically. But you could argue, yeah, of course. Like, if that happened in real life, no one would fucking believe you. They would say you're crazy. But it is, yeah. He does suddenly go from best dad in the world to kicked out of his house, like, over one incident, or two incidences. I thought the cast was amazing. Brad Dourif is always great. And his character is kind of great because he basically doesn't give a shit.
He has a southern accent.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that goes in and out.
Yeah, but he's just like, yeah, I got this arm and now I'm a successful painter. I don't give a shit, dude. Leave me alone. And basically the other guy is that way too. I can't remember his name, but he's a character actor. Like, he's in a lot of stuff recently, but yeah, same thing. Like, I have legs now. I don't care where they came from. And Zakes Moquet as the police detective from Serpent and the Rainbow and Dust Devil, Josh's favorite movie.
And Oz.
And Oz, yeah.
Yeah, he's in Oz for, I think, 2 or 3 episodes.
Okay. And Lindsay Duncan as the doctor, who's the critic in Birdman. She's in a bunch of stuff. She's really good, but yeah, I think it's kind of cartoony though. Like, that's the tone at the end of the day. Like, it's kind of realistic, and then it gets pretty cartoony in like an action movie, which is fun, but it is like one that I could see somebody remaking and having a different take on it or something like that, probably. Although, like Craig said, it's like, yeah, you can't really, like, evil doesn't live in someone's fucking arm. It's not really, like, I don't think anyone's going to buy it. And when the killer shows up and he's still alive and his head is on another body, it kind of, like, jumps the shark. Like, that
It's not even that. The killer, again, spoiler alert, gets his neck snapped, and he's still alive after it.
Yeah. And I don't think he's supposed to look funny, but I don't know. That part just made me laugh when he's literally collecting his own body parts again. You're kind of like, all right, this is kind of unbelievable now.
And there's a whole car chase scene where they're handcuffed to one another, which you'd think if he just wanted to rip his arm off, he would just swerve to the other way, but somehow they're driving together. But not really, because you see shots where they don't. They're not actually driving together.
Yeah. But again, it's like one of those things where you're like, this action scene is well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of out of nowhere. I don't know. Or it's not really, doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of the whole story, but I don't know. I think it's a fun movie for sure.
Yeah.
And I love Jeff Fahey. He's kind of underrated. I mean, I guess not now with Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, but yeah.
What are your thoughts, Josh?
Don't forget about Darkman 3.
I've never forgotten about it.
Yeah, I don't mind Body Parts. I think it's so fucking ludicrous, and I almost think that he should have went goofier. Like, because it's so fucking ludicrous. And, you know, especially like Kyle, you just said, with the fucking guy going around collecting all the body parts and carrying the legs and the arm. And it's just like, okay, this is just going off the fucking rails. I can't even take this seriously, which is fine because, let's be honest, it's all bullshit anyway. But it is like, you know, when Fahey initially gets the killer arm, they kind of want to play it straight, and you know, again, it's like I can't, you can't play this straight at all, and they do, but that does obviously go away as it goes forward, because you know, you have scenes where you have a guy carrying around cut off legs and arms, and you know, taking him out of his car, and there's fucking blood everywhere.
And can we
I
talk
think one
about
of the things that, yeah, go ahead.
You could go back. How easily Brad Dourif's arm rips off. Like,
That
the
was
guy's
pretty
just
simple.
pulled. Yeah. Okay, you can go back. I just had to say that point in terms of these collecting of body parts.
Yeah, the guy rips Brad Dourif's arm off, and it's literally like, you know, tearing a piece of paper. but so I've obviously seen this a few times. It had been a while, and one thing that I think was pretty admirable on the part of Red was, first of all, I can't believe that this was a novel, because the fact that it started out as a fucking novel is just astounding to me. But also that it kind of like fuses together like body horror, mad scientist horror, and slasher horror. So and maybe serial killer is more apt than saying slasher, but I just thought combining those three sort of, you know, subgenres into one thing was pretty cool. I did also feel like a lot of the script was predictable. Of course, the fucking limbs are gonna have minds of their own. Of course, they're gonna fucking, you know. So I didn't really find it was that surprising, I guess. Where, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that I can know of any way that, you know, it should have been done instead, but it's definitely a fun kind of like, you know, early 90s, which it very much feels like, which is totally fine. You know, completely ludicrous fucking plot, but you know, a lot of times those make the best horror films anyway. So.
I think that's where my issue came. You pointed out, Josh, because I liked it a lot. I thought it was really entertaining, but the fact that they tried to make it in a way serious, or tried to add that realism. If they would have just took it that one notch of goofier, then I'd be like, oh, whatever, I'll take it for what it is. But the fact that they're trying to explain this science that doesn't work realistically, then I'm just like, okay, yeah. That's when my brain kind of shuts off on it, or starts becoming analytical. But
yeah, I agree. It should have, like, you're already going off the rails with this plot, so don't fucking try to. Yeah, you could, you know, lose your arm in a car accident, but we could fucking sew another one on. This shit is legit.
Okay, so if we're done, we're going to. Has everybody said their piece on body parts? Okay, we are moving to another Red movie in 1996's Bad Moon, which is based off of the novel Thor, not to be confused with the Marvel character or the Norse god, but it's a dog. Now,
and again, so speaking Thor... of being adapted from novels, I can't fucking believe that this was a novel either.
So Bad Moon.
Anyway, continue.
Bad Moon tells the story of a family which is made up of a mother, her child, and their German Shepherd, who are visited by their uncle. And how do I put this? And the uncle is, well, you know right away the uncle is a werewolf, as we see from the opening sequence that involves him in the Himalayas or Tibet, and a sex scene, and then being attacked by a werewolf, then blowing the werewolf's head off with a shotgun. So he now is a werewolf that changes every night, not just because of the full moon. There are different werewolf laws in this movie, opposed to the normal ones that were set up by the Wolfman in the Universal Classic. And our main protagonist is, in my opinion, and the factual correct opinion, the greatest protagonist in a werewolf movie. It is the German Shepherd Thor, who, in the book itself, this will make more sense in trying to explain this plot, because trying to explain it without that is a little rough. So in the book itself, you get to see the inner workings of Thor's pack mentality, being that he's a descendant of a wolf and he's a dog, of that he wants to protect his family, which is the mother and the son. I believe in the book itself, the husband is around too. But so he wants to protect his family and stop this uncle who is threatening his quote-unquote pack. But he also, being that the uncle is a member of his family, he feels he has to respect the uncle. So there's this weird conflict, and I guess it seems like it would make a lot of sense in a book where you can actually kind of see the internal thoughts. And it's a hard book to actually find in print because it's out of print unless you want to spend a lot of money on it. So we got the movie, Bad Moon. Throughout this, we are seeing basically the confrontation that starts off, that is subtle, between dog and man/werewolf, and they're fighting for who is alpha of the household, and until it comes to an end where they have to decide which, I'm trying to think of a good way to end this, which is man's best friend. I don't know.
Who is Virginia Woolf?
Yeah. So, that is basically the synopsis and the build up to it. I don't even know if it's a love-hate. I have a fascination with this movie because I love werewolf movies. I love the idea that it's a dog as the protagonist. And I think the werewolf, everybody makes fun of the horrible CGI transformation, but I think the werewolf itself, the animatronics, or the costume it's pretty good. It's a lot better than many others. And there's a lot of fun moments to it. And it runs at, what is it? It's like 80 minutes, including credits. So it's a short film. And who can't love an epic werewolf versus German Shepherd fight? That the German Shepherd proves that he stands his own. And it almost feels like somebody, I don't know, I can't remember when Beethoven came out, but around that same time, it would have been before. There was all of these movies where it was like Homeward Bound, Beethoven, whatever else, where it was the animals are kind of the protagonists.
Hills Have Eyes too.
Where the animals are the protagonists in these family movies, and it goes through this plot of how the dog is too wild, but then they love each other, then it's sent away to the pound, and then it comes back, and it's all heroic and loving. And they tried to take some of that formula and put it into a werewolf movie. And yeah, it's hysterical. There's a lot of points where Thor, the dog, is peeing on the trailer to mark his territory, to make it known that he is the alpha. And then there's random parts where the cops think that Thor is the one that killed people. Like, oh, this man is decapitated. It could be your German Shepherd. I don't know. I had a German Shepherd when I was young, and it was a big one, and it would not be able to still decapitate something due to a body what they find on these bodies. But it's a lot of fun, and the ending is okay. I'm going to go into spoilers just because how much I love the ending. So, by the end, he transforms back to a human the next day. He's all cut up and beat up more than Thor somehow, this giant, like 7-foot tall werewolf. And he goes up and he says, as Thor is walking up to him in the middle of the woods, and says, "Do it." And then Thor attacks and kills him. But we don't get this. I wish we could see it. But anyways, I am talking too much. I just want to get into what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is my second time seeing this movie, another Eric Red movie. It's, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's the same as Body Parts in the sense that it's like, if you why did you take this seriously? I just feel like, yeah, you can't base a whole movie around Michael Paré looking tough and a German Shepherd looking tough back. Those are whole scenes in this movie of just them staring each other down, because
it'd be better if the dog doesn't have a narrator like in Homeward Bound, but I almost feel like they should have just put in having somebody voice the dog.
They might as well have, because, yeah, I mean, the dog is a great actor, though. We got to give that dog credit. It's yeah, but
the dog was the best actor in the movie
by far. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think the werewolf stuff, like the practical effects and the action scenes of what are in there are great, but there's just a lot of stuff that feels, I don't know, like that con man salesman guy. I don't know why that was even in the movie at all, other than to prove that the dog is tough or whatever. The dog is like the alpha, but then when when the dog like attacks Michael Paré, kind of, because he's a werewolf, they immediately basically send it to the pound.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just tried to get your dog to kill this guy at the beginning of the movie, and now it's like you're just gonna send it to the pound like that? I don't get it.
Yeah, that's kind of perfect segue for me to make the comment that every character is fucking stupid in the movie too. Especially Mariel Hemmingway.
Except Thor. We cannot talk. This is a no negative on Thor.
Right? No, Thor is not stupid at all. Just everybody else is, and it was like laughable too. Like, when she does like just concede and like, oh fuck, my dog is murdering people, son of a bitch. And it's like, are you really that fucking dumb? There's no fucking way that you can, with a straight face, legitimately be like, fucking dog's decapitating people.
What I do love... Oh, you can keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say, stupid character stuff aside, I did think that it was also like between Michael Paré and Thor, they literally have a pissing contest between one another. And again, it's just like Eric Red went up to Michael Paré and is like, I need you to really take this seriously. Okay. And it's like, how is no,
I want you to go pee on the dog's house after he's
and you need to look really fucking angry and like really serious when you're doing it too, even though this is the dumbest thing on the fucking face of the earth. We're taking this shit seriously.
You have something to say, Kyle?
I mean, I feel like this just proves that Eric Red is like an okay writer and just a bad director. Because, every other movie that he's written that he didn't direct, like Near Dark and The Hitcher and stuff, are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we see this stuff and we're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's a very astute kind of observation because, yeah, motherfucker needs to not direct stuff.
And Michael Paré, we'll get this straight too. This is how dumb the other characters are. He leaves all of his werewolf evidence out to be found easily in his trailer.
Yep.
They see it, all this stuff. They see all of this evidence. They're kind of like, oh, well, that's weird. They make a joke about
times.
Yeah, they make a joke that he has handcuffs, and yeah, at no point do they put two and two together. Of there were people that were being killed where you were living last. You came here, and now there's people being killed.
It's like,
but no, it's my dog.
It's like the cops.
Yeah, it's a fucking dog.
It's like the cops from Evil Within. Just like, oh, we're gonna go in the kitchen. Eat your food.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
So out of the two, I do like, of course, Body Parts is better, but I can't speak bad of Bad Moon because of Thor. If only Thor could be in another werewolf movie. Maybe the new Wolfman that's coming out. Instead of Ryan Gosling, get Thor. That's my...
Yeah, I prefer Body Parts because Brad Dourif gets his arm ripped off. It's gonna trump everything.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious Body Parts is better. And I think that, like, I like the cheese of Bad Moon. I like the fact that, initially, it is kind of strange too, because it's like initially Paré is like, this kind of like tragic guy, like he's depressed and he knows that what he's doing is bad. But then it's like, as soon as he moves to Mariel Hemingway's, he just becomes a dick. And it's like, I don't understand why you changed, the way that the character is like presented to the audience that drastically, because, he like calls and he's like crying after Mariel Hemingway and her son leave after they come and visit him. And it's like, you feel bad for him. He knows that what he's doing is wrong and bad. And, he's murdering people and this, that, and the other thing. But then as soon as he gets there, it's just like he just turns into a giant dickhead, which I was like, I don't understand that. But.
And beforehand too, he was doing this thing that's shown, and that's where Thor first finds him as a werewolf, is he was chaining himself to a tree.
Which I also thought was a pretty sweet idea.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was that pussy-ish of a werewolf that he couldn't get out of those handcuffs either is fucking hilarious.
Because he is a huge werewolf. It's not like American Werewolf.
Fucking like 10 feet tall.
So, but for some reason, he's so worried about all these random people. But then when it comes to his own family, he decides, that's where he has that change of heart that Josh was talking about. Like, oh, well, I won't wear these handcuffs anymore, and just put in danger my only family members.
Yeah, I didn't understand that switch either. And then, and he like gets even worse by the end, where he wants to kill his sister. And I was like, okay. And
so part of it, as I mentioned in the beginning, silver doesn't work. A shotgun blast to the head does the trick for the first werewolf. And I think it was supposed to be more connected to, which we talked a little bit about in a prior episode, lycanthropy before it came to cinema. So, like the old school, from centuries ago, where people believe they turned into werewolves, and that he does it every night, which is tragic in itself too, of having to turn into a werewolf every single night. That's rough, and it seems like, as Josh was saying, you could really make something, I think, interesting out of that and tragic out of that, but it's not in the same movie where a dog is the main character.
It kind of starts off being like what Josh is saying, it starts off being like it could be that movie, first 10 or 15 minutes, and then it doesn't become very dark. But it's also interesting that a shotgun blast to the head kills a werewolf in Eric Red's universe, and what kills serial killer body parts run amok? Also a shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was almost like the same exact setup for those shots of the werewolf head exploding from a shotgun blast, and then fucking the serial killer, what was his name, Charles Fletcher's head exploding. Yeah.
And he decides to, I guess, why not? Going back to, because I forgot, body parts, the best thing in it is that he decides to shoot all the body parts too, because somehow that would kill animated body parts, is to shoot them with a shotgun.
Yes. That's how it works.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
And no, I think, I agree with Eric Red. I think I wrote about it in Gingerness of Horror because I'm a huge fan of Tales from Beyond the Pale, the podcast, done by Larry Fessenden and Glenn McQuaid, who we'll be having an interview with. By the time this comes out, will the interview already be up?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
You've already listened to it.
Yes, you already listened to the interview. And if you haven't, go back to the episode with it. But Eric Red wrote and directed one that deals with vampires and a children's beauty pageant, like a child beauty pageant. And there's elements of it that are silly and funny, but again, it's the same thing where it's just it just doesn't hit in the way it could. He spends the whole time using it gets just pure exposition, which doesn't make it really boring. But then the last 5 minutes, and probably less than that, last 4 minutes or so, 3 or 4, I'll keep lowering. The last minute of the thing is amazing. But yeah, I'd also check that out. That's free. If you decide to do a double feature, then listen to that. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it's the Eric Red one. I think it's just called Pageant. I forgot the name of it. Anyways, that is our Eric Red episode. Next week, our next episode where we join ourselves all together, we will be doing a double feature from Kyle, which are
going to be 1997's The Cure and I believe 1987's Anguish. And they don't really have anything to do with each other. And that's how we like it.
Yeah, if you have any recommendations for us to check out maybe obscure films, of course, send them our way. We're always happy to try them out. And yeah, if you yourself are listening and you have a movie that you directed or stuff like that, we are doing our Horror Not Fear campaign that should be going on by the time of this episode has broadcasted. But send it our way, and we're always happy to promote that stuff and help sponsor people. So, yeah, thank you for listening.
Take it easy.
Hey, this is Kyle dropping in again to let you know to please like, subscribe, follow, tweet, Snapchat, do all those social media things. And we've got another word on the street. This is from our listener in Royal Oaks, Michigan, Chip Donahue.
Well, sometimes there's nothing better than going out and putting 18 holes with the clients while blasting Bloodhound Pix.
Bloodhound Pix podcast is produced by Josh Lee, Craig Dram, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Audio editing by Kyle Hintz.